Well, Spooky Month is over. I guess that means I don't really need the Halloween aesthetic anymore. What am I supposed to record now? Hang on, it's November! That's right, everybody. PokéMonth is finally back and better than ever. And I honestly didn't really know what I was going to be playing for PokéMonth for a while, but thankfully throughout the entire month of October, I was able to plan out everything that I wanted to do. So, what am I going to talk about this time exactly? That is indeed the question. Well, I think that the best way to actually go about it is probably go over one of the main things about Pokemon, the types. Each Pokemon has one or two typings that make up their design. I'm going to go over each typing throughout this entire month. Well, as much as I can at least. I'm not going to be making top 10 lists every single day. That's just a lot of work and a lot of script writing to have to do. But But that's not gonna, but that's not really gonna stop me from at least trying. So, what are we gonna do today? Well, this top 10, I'm gonna be starting off with the most basic type, the normal type. The, the normal type is, well, normal. It's by far the most basic type of all of them. Of all the Pokemon out there, it's sure is not may not be as unique as fire or electricity or even ice for that matter, but it still has quite a few heavy hitters and powerhouses here and there. Actually, now that I think about that, editor, can you play some music in the background, please? Thanks, thanks a bunch, editor. And anyways, Anyways, I'm here to talk about my top 10 favorite normal types in all of Pokemon. And quite a few of these picks are going to be kind of odd and weird for me to explain, but I'm hoping that I can still at least get my point across. Now, I wanted to say that I did do a list like this before, all the way back on in my amino apps days, but that list is very outdated, and I kind of wanted to give it a bit of an update. So, with that being said, what and how will we start? How will we get catching everything and start off this list with number 10, Regigigas. Now, there are quite a few reasons why I do like Regigigas as a Pokemon itself. For first of all, being one of the only normal type legendaries besides Actual God and the Ether Foundation's poor replication of it, Regigigas is the big boss of the five Regis. And yes, five Regis, because, Regieleki and Regidrago were added like literally the previous generation. So aside from aside from that, it's by far one of my favorite legendaries out there because, and especially since the fact that nobody really uses it in any sort of competitive team anymore. But I'll probably get to that in a second. Regigigas is once again, like I mentioned, is the big boss of the five Regis. It has a strong and menacing aura to it, which makes sense given the fact that it's the creator of the Regis and its status as a legendary Pokemon. And and with the Snow Point Temple being created just to seal it away because the people feared of how strong it was. Oh, and the fact that its cry in the anime is just absolute cinema. Seriously, just listen to it. Though being as big and strong as it does have one very glaring weakness. Its ability. For those of you who don't know, Slow Start is by far one of the worst abilities in the game, and on Switch In, this Pokemon's attack and speed are cut in half for 5 turns straight. And if you switch out the Pokemon and switch it back in, the counter resets. Now, normally this isn't really a problem if you have a fellow Galarian Weezing or regular Weezing that has the ability Neutralizing Gas, or something that can swap its ability out with something a bit better, but that's kind of the problem. See, Regigigas is kind of ranked in a tier, and I don't really talk about competitive Pokemon too much, but just for this video, I might do that. Just for the sake of giving more context of why the Pokemon probably isn't higher on the list, and Regigigas' ability is the main reason why it's not higher. Its ability pretty much makes it ranks it in the ZU tier, which basically means that it's straight up garbage compared to everything else, even its own creations, the Reggies. But aside from that, I still love this Pokemon regardless. But for what? Because its role in the anime and in the game's lore just makes it that much more unique. And I actually really liked how Dobbs liked the portrayal of Regigigas. That Regigigas is apparently created by something called Regi Alpha. And I don't know, it's more of a fan theory and speculation and stuff, but I really would like to see something like Regi Alpha be a real thing and be complete and be confirmed to be the creator of Regigigas itself. Not to mention, this Pokedex entry goes on to talk about how it's able to pull continents with ropes. Yeah, no like startup or anything, just plain old ropes, which I think is very impressive. And aside from that, I think this is a pretty fantastic Pokemon and just to kick off this list with. Right, on to number 9. Eevee. So the next entry on the list is personally one of my favorite normal types. It's even been a starter in a few games, like Let's Go Eevee. E- Eevee is a cute Pokemon that anyone will want as a pet or even a battle partner. Trust me, I always go out of my way in every game to at least get one of the evolutions on my team. So when I first saw this little guy in the episode the Battling Eevee Brothers, I thought there must be more to it. And turns out, Kid Me was right. At the time, it only had 3 evolutions: Vaporeon, Flareon, and Jolteon, all of which were its main gimmick, having multiple evolutions. Plus, it was the first Pokemon to ever do so. But now it has 8 different evolutions covering water, fire, electric, psychic, dark, ice, grass, and fairy. And and in case anyone is wondering, Leafeon is my favorite evolution of Eevee. But to be completely honest, Eevee is just perfect the way it is. I mean, look at it. Look at the little guy. You wouldn't want to evolve this guy, at least not yet. Just take your time, keep it as an Eevee for as long as you want, and then inevitably evolve it when you feel like you should. But even so, it's still one of my favorite normal types. Heck, it even has its own Z move back in Sun, Moon, Ultra Sun, and Ultra Moon, which I would love to show, but can't really show it because of, well, copyright. But you guys get the idea. Eevee has just become so popular over the years, and heck, it's even had its own Terror Raid event just for it, and that's just very impressive to me. Oh, and going back to its 8 evolutions, I wanted to mention that all 8 of its evolutions were all special types, or all special types in some way, shape, or form. Now you guys might be wondering why I'm calling them special types. Well, it's because back in the day they were all special before the physical special split of Gen 4, and I honestly would love to see more of it get more. Blah, I can't even speak with the script. I would like to see more of Eevee's potential be shown. Like, what would a flying type evolution be like? I mean, we don't really have to imagine that because apparently there was a leaked image about it actually supposed to get in a flying type evolution, but we never got it. Some things just weren't meant for the light of day, weren't they? But overall, Eevee is a cute and adorable Pokemon that can literally adapt to anything, and I would totally want this little guy as a pet. He's basically just the same kind. He basically requires the same amount of care as your average house pet. Though, to be completely honest, I would love to see it get a new evolution soon. Herbaliva. Yep, that's a bit of a surprise. A recent generation Pokemon actually made the list. And it's actually kind of odd that I'm including a Pokemon from a completely different recent generation that just came out a couple years ago. Wait, has it really been a year or two ago? Geez, time flies fast, doesn't it? Hmm. Anyways, Anyways, well, being combined with one of my favorite types, the grass type, Arboliva has a very cool design concept. When I first saw its pre-evolution Smoliv, I flat out adored it. I mean, come on, plus even the name is super fun to say. Smoliv. The memes do influence canon now, doesn't it? Anyways, anyways, as I was saying, I flat out adored Smoliv, and as it evolved more into Dolliv and Arboliva eventually, it gained more doll-like features that can totally justify its normal typing. Honestly, I was kind of confused as to why this thing was a normal type to begin with, but the fact that it's based on dolls and that olives tend to be very common ingredients in any sort of food, yeah, now that I think about it, it does kind of make sense for it to be a normal type. And not just that, Arboliva happens to be one of the most useful NPC Pokemon during Terra raids, due to its ability Seed Sower, which sets up grassy terrain whenever it takes a hit. It's sort of a very useful support Pokemon, as expected being a grass type, but people tend to forget that it's also a normal type, making it immune to ghost type attacks. And while it is weak to both fire and probably fighting, it's been a while since I looked at its type matchups. Make, but but terrestrializing it to a different type could change its very weaknesses that it so desperately hates. And as writing this script, I've yet to see or believe its full potential in any sort of competitive play. So I still think it has room to improve. But other than that, I really do hope to see Arboliva make more of a comeback in competitive Pokemon and VGC as a whole. I don't know. Yep, we're talking about Audino this time. Now, I might be a bit biased, but I am a huge fan of Generation 5. When I heard that there was going to be no Kanto Pokemon at all, I kind of wondered what Pokemon they were going to use to replace Nurse Joy's tried and true assistant Chansey, and Blissey to some sort of extent. So after the black and white anime released and I saw the first episode that featured the Audino, I was immediately hooked. Its design was admittedly pretty cute, with the pink and cream coloring mixing to bring out the blue eyes, but it's just more than that. Audino is apparently so well liked in Gen 5 that in the next generation it got a Mega Evolution. And with Mega Evolution coming back to Pokemon Legends ZA, well, I'm hoping we get to see Audino return once more. And considering that Mega Evolution is coming back, I'm really hoping that we get new Mega Evolutions. Like, I don't know, maybe we'll get a new version of Mega Evolution, something we haven't seen before. I don't know. But, but anyways, putting my brain back onto the script. No, it's not even going to mention the move pool that this thing has, which is basically a big focus on healing and support, just like Chansey before it. Though it lacks the ability to use Eviolite like Chansey, therefore it can't really be any bulkier than it already is. But it makes up for it by hitting harder and being able to stand on its own in battles, as well as its abilities Regenerator, which restores its HP whenever it's withdrawn, and Healer, which sometimes cures the status condition of its allies. Just goes to show that how useful Audino can be in the best of times. And even at the worst of times, it's still a pretty good Pokemon to fall back to. Porygon Z. Yep, we're talking about the digital duck again. Actually, this may be the first time I'm actually talking about it, so, there's a first time for everything. You all probably were wondering if I was going to have a weird pick, and I honestly do. The Porygon line has been one of the most interesting designs I've ever seen in any Pokemon game, and they were introduced in the first generation. Well, specifically Porygon was, and then Gen 2 came around and gave us Porygon 2, then Gen 4 came around and gave us its evolution Porygon Z. See, and honestly, they have the most interesting designs I've ever seen. But since they are virtual Pokemon, it really makes sense for them to look much more odd and complex than other Pokemon that look more natural to the world. And Porygon Z has the strangest design of the whole line. I never even noticed that Porygon Z was literally just a corrupted version of Porygon 2. Just rearrange the design. You just rearrange the design a little bit, turn its head upside down, and there you go. It's a Porygon 2. But it also gives me a bit of a nightmare since it kind of makes me remember that its head is actually upside down. So, yeah. It's very weird. But it's kind of freaky too, but it still has its own quirks and charms. For one, it, along with the rest of its evolutionary family, can evolve through trade, meaning it's possible to have a level 1 Porygon Z. It's just very hard to actually obtain that. And on top of that, its dex entry describes how Porygon Z's programming was modified to work in alien dimensions, which didn't really work as planned, apparently. Although my favorite one has to be described in Pokemon Legends Arceus by Professor Lavington, which goes along the lines of something like this. A curious item induced this evolution. The Pokemon's offensive capabilities have greatly increased, but the strangeness of its behavior has magnified in equal measure. This worries me. And honestly, the fact that Professor Lavington is worried about something like this kind of makes sense, considering the fact that Porygon Z is a modern time Pokemon, and Lavington is in the past, where he was creating the first Pokedex to exist, and having the Porygon line as part of it just feels off and weird. But time space distortions and all that. And on the competitive side, Porygon Z is an absolute monster. Or, well, it would be if it wasn't ranked NU, meaning never used. Oh, right, I should probably mention that throughout this video I was actually saying a couple of the rankings. ZU and NU are sort of host some of the Pokemon that I like. But I should probably explain what each of them mean. You see, there's plenty of tiers in Pokemon, with Uber being the highest tier, and then there's AG. The AG tier means anything goes, which I think it solely is accompanied by Mega Rayquaza, and that's it. Unless I could be wrong, I'm not a competitive battler. But below OU, there are the other tiers. There's NU, PU, ZU, UU, and RU, which basically are tiers of Pokemon that don't really do much. And then there's also NFE, which means not fully evolved, but I don't know. I'm not going to go on a tangent and talk about competitive Pokemon too much. And honestly, it is pretty disappointing that Porygon Z here is actually outranked by its pre-evolution Porygon 2, simply because of Eviolite. But apparently, the Porygon Z was so strong in NU that it was actually placed on the NU ban list for quite a while, but soon returned to normal NU as the generations went on. And that's not even to mention how Porygon Z is just an adorable little guy. However, we never actually get to see Porygon Z in the anime ever, since it and its entire evolutionary line was banned from the anime up until recently, where Liko started to take over as the main protagonist, and Porygon actually appears in an episode of that series. Which, honestly, I'm gonna be completely honest, I haven't seen the whole series yet, but I will watch it on my own time eventually. But just know for now that Porygon Z is my little glitchy little baby bird, and I will never ever stop loving it. I really hope this thing gets a Mega Evolution in Legends ZA, because seriously, Legends ZA, Porygon Z, they both have Z in the name. Give this guy a Mega Evolution. He literally deserves it. Snorlax. Oh look, another lovable Pokemon from Generation 1 that gets a ton of limelight. Okay, while Snorlax is an obvious pick for a list like this, it doesn't mean it's the wrong one. Snorlax is simply a big boy that eats and sleeps a lot, stated by his Pokedex entry. But by quite a lot of Pokedex entries, to be honest. But don't let that guys fool you. This boy is tanky and powerful and competitive. Or, well, it would be if like Regigigas, it wasn't ranked ZU currently. Yeah, apparently this thing is ranked ZU currently. It probably does have some play in some sort of OU, but again, I'm not a competitive expert, so if anyone knows better than me, then please let me know in the comments. Anyways, Snorlax tends to be associated strongly with Ash Ketchum, the previous protagonist, since he did use it during most of his battles in the Orange League, and which totally counts as a league. I am not going to take any slander saying that the Orange League is not a league. In fact, if you're not going to call Orange League a league, then what are you going to call Alola? Alola is literally the exact same thing. Anyways, back to the heckin' chonker over here. Snorlax was just so popular that it even got a baby form 3 generations later. Heck, it's even the main star of a recent Pokemon app, Pokemon Sleep. If any of you guys actually remember when that game was actually released. And heck, even I use Pokemon Sleep. Which honestly makes sense. Who wouldn't want to sleep next to a good old Snorlax? I know I would. And again, going back to my previous statement, on the competitive side, much like Regigigas, it's ranked ZU, meaning that it apparently has zero use anymore. But it doesn't mean people can't use Snorlax effectively. I've seen quite a few people use it effectively, especially in competitive in the early days. But back to my personal reason for liking it, I don't know. I kind of just liked Snorlax since I was a kid when I first saw it in the episode Wake Up Snorlax, which honestly very much confuses me as to how Ash didn't know what a Snorlax is at that point. He had a plush of Snorlax in his room. But griping a few of my gripes aside, I kind of just like Snorlax in general, and I really, really wish Snorlax would get some sort of attention. I mean, well, more attention, as in like a Mega Evolution of some sort. I mean, it has a Gigantamax form, and it has like 2 signature moves, a signature Z move and a signature G Max move. Which again, I can't show them off because of copyright with Creatures Inc. and Pokemon and all that, but just like Eevee, you guys can kind of get the idea, right? Snorlax is just one of my favorite Pokemon, and it honestly deserves its number 5 spot on this list. Though I'm not sure how I'm going to be able to explain the next entry to this list. Lopunny. If any of you say anything naughty in the comments, I'm freaking deleting it. So, yeah, you're kind of wondering why Lopunny is on the list. Well, it's not for any other reasons, understand? Now, before any of you judge me on this, I only like it as a Pokemon, nothing more. Lopunny's design basis is the main reason why most people tend to like it, being a caricature of Playboy bunnies. But, you also have to remember that it's a rabbit, specifically it's the Holland Lop. Which is probably the most adorable rabbit in the entire world. Not gonna lie about that. But aside from being based on a rabbit, people don't really tend to look at it too much. And by other people, I mean most other people with a sense of dignity, I suppose. And as someone who's actually owned a pet rabbit before, yes, I actually did own a rabbit before, but I was like really young at the time. And it was technically my mom's rabbit. They do make great pets, but it takes a lot of trust since they're very skittish in nature, which is why Baneri evolves into Lopunny based on friendship. But back to Lopunny, I'd like to say that it's made an impact on my life as a Pokemon itself. My first impression of it was actually in a side game, Pokemon Mystery Dungeon Explores the Sky, where it was part of Team Charm, alongside fellow Pokemon Gardevoir and Medicham, being known as the beauty of the trio. Not to mention, it can also Mega Evolve and obtain the ability Scrappy, which pretty much allows it to hit Ghost types with its other 2 stab types, Normal and Fighting. And I'm just gonna say the Dex entry for Lopunny is pretty much no joke either. By swinging its Mega Evolution Dex entry states it swings its ears like whips and strikes enemies with them. It has an intensely combative disposition. So you're telling me that this rabbit that can kick with the force of probably 50 men has a very combative disposition. That doesn't seem very surprising until you realize that this is a Pokemon that usually dislikes fighting. But right now, even so, I still like this Pokemon regardless of how the rest of the fandom thinks. And yeah, I like it the way it is. Also, can we just give bonus points for it's shiny? The pink accents really do go well with the brown, and it just somehow works. Beware. Now, now Beware happens to be one of my favorite Pokemon that was introduced in Generation 7. And it's the it as right, it's the bear itself that can't seem to leave Team Rocket alone, no matter what region they happen to be in. Beware is just one of those Pokemon that I feel like I can vibe with. Pretty easily, honestly. It can be cute and cuddly in its own right, but at the same time, it can be truly terrifying. You all probably know about its dex entry from Sun and Moon, about how it can crush spines and accidentally ends the life of its trainers. Though I don't think it means to do this on purpose, especially since it's been known to be caring and nurturing to others. Though Beware's typing is actually what confused me at first. Normal fighting is a pretty interesting combination. I get the normal typing. I mean, it looks pretty normal to me. Honestly, it kind of reminds me of those mascot outfits, which is what it's based on. But fighting? I never really understood why it was fighting type to begin with. Its design doesn't necessarily scream fighting type at all. But upon doing some research, I actually found out that Beware tend to learn martial arts when they're watching black belts train in the woods. That's actually pretty interesting, to say the least. Pokemon definitely duly in. Ugh, I can't speak. What I was trying to say is that Pokemon definitely do be learning things from people. Honestly, I guess if it wasn't for humanity, Pokemon really wouldn't learn anything else. But if it wasn't for Pokemon, humanity in Pokemon world wouldn't really have much of a civilization. So I guess that clears up why it's fighting type. Not to mention I really like its shiny form. And on the competitive side, though, it's kind of like Porygon Z situation, where it is currently in the NU ban list, but it's seen some usage in RU or rarely used. But if I have to talk about non-competitive reasons, I don't know. I kind of just like Beware in general. It's an adorable guy, and even though he probably is strong enough to crush my spine in a single hug, I totally still chill with this guy. Honestly, I think he could probably be friends with my Snorlax. I don't know. Maybe they just chill and eat berries all day. That's something I can definitely get behind. Spinda. Ah, yes, we're talking about the dizzy panda that never ever stops spinning. The one that pretty much everybody should know and probably loves. Uh, Though, let's get into the reason why I like it. As you all know Spinda's main gimmick is that it has well over 4 billion different patterns, depending on many factors. One of those being its personality values, its natures, etc., etc. It's complicated, but all you need to know is that two spots that appear on Spinda randomly appear on somewhere on its model, no matter where it is, even if they're right next to each other. Heck, there's even a spot pattern where it has a heart on its face. That's adorable. And though again, the reason why it has impacted me so much is just the same reason as Lopunny. I first saw it in Pokemon Mystery Dungeon Explores the Sky, and it was actually running a cafe in that little game, if any of you remember, alongside a Wobbuffet and a Wynot. It it introduced the move Teeter Dance, and not to mention it's pretty darn adorable. On the competitive side, though, Spinda is currently ranked PU, or partially used, which is kind of odd considering it has Contrary, arguably one of the best abilities in the game. I'd I'd honestly want to see more Spinda usage, but it probably won't see that considering it has base 60 stats all across the board. That's not very good, honestly. And if I had a chance to buff it, I would totally want to buff its speed. It definitely needs to be faster. But at the same time, it wouldn't be able to take advantage of Trick Room, so yeah, I guess there's that. Now, I probably didn't share this to you guys before, but I actually did manage to get every single form of Alchemy out there, but we won't touch fairy types for a long, long time. Anyways, I actually managed to get every single form of Alchemy, but if I went to try to get every single form of Spinda, you'd probably never see me ever again. I literally would never be anywhere on the internet because I'd be trying to get all 4 billion patterns. But besides that, I do love this little guy, and And also, on a bit of an unrelated note, it looks absolutely hysterical while using Breakneck Blitz. Seriously, next time you play an Alola game, get a Spinda and use Breakneck Blitz. It's the funniest thing you'll ever see. And finally, number 1. Smeargle. Yep, you guys heard this right. Smeargle is my number 1 favorite normal type Pokemon. So let's face the fact here. I'm a Johto baby. I've played the mainline games since Heart Gold, Soul Silver, and when I found out Smeargle was a thing, I kinda knew I wanted one for myself. And a little did I know on how rare this freaking beagle was. Like, I honestly could not tell you how long it took me to even find one when I was a kid. But even then, I still somehow managed to find one and catch it and have it on my team. Now, in all honesty, its stats aren't really that great. When I first got it, when I initially got it, I was immediately pretty underwhelmed. In fact, it's pretty much an underwhelming Pokemon in general, since Johto happens to be filled with very weak Pokemon. But if you told me that this thing was going to be an absolute menace in VGC in the future, I would never have believed you. I would have called you crazy. I just think it's a cute little artist dog. But oh boy, was I wrong. Turns out Smeargle became an absolute VGC menace. Mostly thanks to its main move, Sketch, which allows it to learn any move that was just used before it. And apparently, if anyone has ever used a Mew or a Mewtwo, being able to use any move in the game is, well, kind of broken. Which is why in later generations they actually kind of nerfed it a bit. Combine that with its ability to Moody, which by the way raises one stat by a certain amount of stages while lowering another stat, it makes it kind of broken. And I think that's kind of the reason why they went ahead and nerfed the move Dark Void so that Smeargle can't use it, and that no Pokemon can use it unless they are Darkrai. And after that, Smeargle just pretty much started becoming irrelevant and falling from grace. Though I have seen it still be used in VGC even to this day. Now again, I'm not really much of a competitive Pokemon player, so if you ask me anything about Smeargle's whole thing in Smogon, I wouldn't really know. I'd probably have to do some research. But after doing some research in this video, apparently he's good in 3 tiers. He's good in ZU, which again is 0 used, the Regigigas tier, remember, has NU, which is nearly used, and PU, which is partially used. And apparently this thing has had some sort of use in National Dex Ubers, among other things. You know, the tier with a bunch of legendaries and fully evolved Pokemon that are absolutely broken in the metagame are kept. Yeah, and I'm willing to bet that even with the correct setup, it can even take down Shadow Rider Calyrex and Miraidon, who are the current rulers of the AG tier. But, you know, aside from that, it is just a cute little lovable art doggo that likes to create art and share its creativity with everyone else. Though again, my love for Smeargle comes from the fact that it's a Johto Pokemon. I am a Johto baby, and I love the Johto region. Despite the many weak Pokemon that live there, I still happen to like it overall. And with that out of the way, I'm guessing that's just gonna do it for now. So, that's gonna do it for the first PokéMonth video. Thank you guys so much for watching this. Be sure to leave a like, comment what your favorite normal type is in the comments below, and be sure to like and subscribe so you don't miss a single notification. I'll see all of you in the next video. Goodbye.
You say you wanna try, but you never do. Sugar, there's a reason.